racing. You wanted the best, you got them four abreast. Often imitated, never duplicated. The greatest show on dirt, the World of Outlaws.
After two exciting rounds, the championship fight is still wide open for the 2019 CSI Shocks Fall Series and its 15 and over class season. Just 4 drivers finished inside the top 10 in the first 2 rounds of the campaign. Just 1 inside the top 5. For some of the best Dirt Midget drivers in all of iRacing, this evening's round could define their season. Who will take control of the title fight? We're about to see live on the Global SimRacing channel. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the virtual dirt track at Charlotte in Concord, North Carolina for the 3rd race of the CSI Shocks Fall Series 15 and over class season. I'm Justin Prince. Alongside the booth tonight is Chris Bobby. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Chris, tonight sees us racing at a facility built just across the street from Charlotte Motor Speedway back in 2000. What can you tell us about this clay dirt track?
Well, Justin, this is a fun quarter-mile layout, pretty sweeping turns here. We're going to see some quick laps, and as well, this is a track that's kind of built its own history here in the almost 20 years it's been around, and some marquee events in the dirt track racing world occur right on this very track. And to take you around, we're going to show you a couple quick laps on our virtual lap.
Welcome to Charlotte. No, not the big oval that hosts the World 600 and the Roval. We're heading just a short walk off of Turn 4 to the dirt track. The only thing shared between the two is the name. The stadium-style facility, built in the year 2000, has nearly 14,000 seats and plays host to dirt lake models, modified sprint cars, even monster trucks, and the prestigious World of Outlaws World Finals. On iRacing, it came to the service in 2018 with the Dirt Movement and plays host to several rounds of official iRacing sanctioned dirt events as well as thousands of private league events. At 0.4 of a mile, the turns are where the action is. 10 degrees of banking awaits the drivers as they haul off into Turn 1. The short radius of the corners makes slide jobs the name of the game, rewarding the bravest drivers to send it into the corner like the postman and wrestle track position away. Boasting a day version and a night version, this allows the full dynamic sky range that iRacing offers, providing for a beautiful visual that serves as a backdrop to the even better racing. Corners that you can stack cars in 3, 4, and even 5 wide for the bravest. Lots of action, deceptively fast, beautiful backdrops. All of these things add up to what makes this place unique. This has been our guide to the Charlotte Dirt Oval. I'm Brian Yazik. Enjoy the show.
That was a look at your GSRC lap guide at the Stadium Lake facility. Now tonight, the championship battle sees one man that has been the most consistent so far. Harry Stewart has scored the most points in total, 134, with a win in the opening round of the season and a 3rd place last week. While we can't show the full listings at the moment, we will show that next round. Harry Stewart has pulled away as the favorite. Chris, your thoughts on this Australian dirt racer?
Well, Harry's been very impressive in our opening couple rounds, shows a lot of great potential for the remainder of this season, and looks to be a threat even here today at Charlotte.
He's actually second on the practice charts as well, as he is continuing to put in times in the 16 flats at the moment here at the dirt track at Charlotte. Now, we'd like to take a look at the race details. Chris, what can you tell us about this series and for those tuning in for the first?
Well, this is the third of 5 rounds on the season. Qualifying today, we're going to see a 5-minute session, 3 laps. The fastest 12 drivers will be locked into the A main. The remainder of the field will have to run 2 transfer races. The top 3 from each will transfer on to an 18-car main event. Also, the grid from the fastest top 12 drivers will be inverted for the A main.
It should be an interesting once again as the drivers adapt to those fixed setups. Today's race details presented by Competition Suspension Incorporated. CSI has become the shock of choice for many of the top professionals. They have won over 5,000 races and many track, regional, and national championships across the world. To learn more, visit competitionsuspension.com. Practice times now showing up on the left side of your screen on the pylon. As mentioned, the fastest times in the 16 flats by Austin Irvine and Harry Stewart. Kenny Miller also joins them in that category. Tyler Chalk and Will Sylvester round out the top 5 of the practice boards. But real quickly, before we get to that discussion, let's take a look at your weather conditions because, for one, it's the first day after a new iRacing build, so drivers are adjusting to some of the changes. 2, one of those changes is a track temperature colder than the air temp. That is something that is fairly rare on the iRacing service, but that is one of the main things that was fine-tuned a bit from as drivers discovered today. Chris?
Something that's not too out of the question in the real world with the way these dirt tracks kind of hold in moisture and the amount of water you have to lay down, that the surface would be a little bit cooler than what we see for the ambient temperature. So another nice upgrade in the service here with the latest update, and looks to add another layer of realism here to the simulation at the Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Absolutely. It's going to be fun to see how it affects the racing tonight in terms of some of the adjustments that came from this year's updates, or this season's updates rather, to the iRacing service. Still following up with many of the drivers, but of course at the dirt track at Charlotte, Chris, this is a very unique track, or a very fun track rather, in where you can run multiple lines. The cushion and the bottom can both work here. It's for one of the main reasons why it's one of the best tracks on the entire iRacing service.
Yeah, and I think it's reflective of the real world track as well. This is a very fun course. I know people that visit this track on the regular, and they're very big fans of it. And like I kind of mentioned earlier, this is a track that also has become host to a lot of marquee events. You know, SMI and the Smith family definitely don't make any half steps with their tracks, and getting this one on the service was a huge feather in the cap to iRacing, because this one is such a highly regarded track.
Indeed, for drivers like Chase Crum, how do you adjust as this race continues to progress here at this circuit? Because, as mentioned, the marquee track, the chances of different lines. What are you expecting in terms of adjustments from these drivers as the event progresses tonight?
I think we're going to see some guys really searching around the track, trying to find the quick way around that suits their style the best. As you mentioned, you know, you can run on the bottom, you can run on the top. It's just a matter of how the surface is degrading over the course of the night and how these drivers can adjust on the fly. I think is going to be the biggest part of the show.
Still have about 6 minutes or so, just under that, pardon me, until we get qualifying underway. But many drivers are looking to gain invaluable points because there are still plenty of competitors tonight who have not even made a feature so far. Chris, what do you do if you're those drivers who need to gain points to be able to have a shot at the championship, even with the
Well, at this point, we are reaching the third event of the season, so it's going to be desperate times if you're not one of the guys that's been regularly making the main events. It's time to step your game up and get your elbows out, because it's definitely going to be go time.
Go time indeed. Many of these drivers continue to buckle up, prepare themselves around this circuit for tonight. It should be a fun one, absolutely. Just under 5 minutes left on the practice session for warm-ups right now. Who are some of the drivers you consider some of the favorites this evening as we follow along with Jake Erickson?
Well, you definitely can't count out Harry Stewart, who's been very impressive this season. Irvine at the top of the charts is a driver that's been quick throughout. And I think I think we got just a slew of talented drivers in this field, as we've witnessed the last couple weeks, Justin.
Who are some of the other talented drivers you keep an eye on outside of Stewart?
Well, you got to look at Mr. Chalk up there. He's P4 in practice, and he's a name that we've seen kind of float around quite a bit in the last race, and I think he's definitely a very impressive looker for this one.
Yeah, our producer Sean Ambrose was actually saying he was someone to keep an eye on tonight. He's fourth in the practice charts at the moment, and someone that, to be honest, seen more of on the oval side than the dirt side prior to the start of this campaign. He's right now in a mix of other drivers that are trying different lines. Ericsson on the cushion, for example. Chalk amongst the drivers potentially trying the slide job and unfortunately failing as cars are stopped on the top line. One of the other drivers, again, to keep an eye on is the young Theon, the third-generation family driver we've seen a couple times as practice, Chance Crum. He's had some up and downs, as well as his brother Hunter. What are your thoughts about the Crums so far as we enter round 3?
Well, I believe if you have a family of Crumbs, then in that case you need to sweep. But that's neither here nor there. Those drivers are both very talented, and they've shown a lot of muscle here early on in our season with this series in particular. But it's cool to see the drivers that are out there beating the real world tracks as well, getting some practice in, so to speak, and keeping their reps up during the off season.
Yeah, a lot of drivers, even guys like Christopher Bell, Chase Briscoe. Because even here at Dale Jr. was actually on some of the dirt races, practicing along with TJ Majors in the past week or so. A lot of drivers like to be a part of this service and race on tracks such as the dirt track at Charlotte. But one of the drivers I want to currently highlight upon is one of the ones who are in the second group of practice drivers. When it comes to practice, you have two sets of appearance drivers. When you have more than a lot of pit stalls, you're sent to the second practice. Exum is amongst those drivers currently resting off the track. However, he has been one of those drivers inside the top 10 in both the rounds. He is at the bottom of the practice pylon at the moment.
Yeah, that's a bit of a twist for how things have been going so far.
Yeah, is that a concern if you're struggling in practice, or you're more concerned about what your pace may be compared to, say, your qualifying and race?
Well, I think practice is the time to try things. So you may not always have the fastest setup, but I think if you're reaching the point where practice is winding down and you still haven't really got it keyed in yet, you may be starting to panic.
Indeed, right now, we still are in the final moments of this practice session before we hit the qualifying track for tonight's racing action. Again, keep an eye on Terry Stewart. We've talked about shock amongst the other drivers. Also, keep an eye, quietly, Brennan Rogers has been one of the more consistent drivers. He has yet to record a practice time, was close to a W in the last round. It's going to be interesting to see how drivers do in qualifying, because Chris, so far, this is an interesting statistic. Just about every single lead lap so far in the features have been by drivers who started on the front row. That was after the inversion with the top 12 qualifiers.
Well, it definitely puts a premium on qualifying, and not necessarily in the way that you'd expect. You want to be in that first group to make the invert, but that does not necessarily mean that you want to be the fastest in the invert.
Yeah, we've seen many times the invert coming around sometimes in the middle of the field in the first round, towards the back of the field in the second, and in turn the drivers that were originally qualified in the middle of the field, because they weren't having to deal with the hornet's nest, were able to stay up towards the front. But the drivers, they're about to get ready to head onto the racetrack for qualifying. Again, 5 minutes, 3 laps, top 12 advance to go to the feature directly. Those drivers are about to hit onto the racetrack for tonight's action. Let's take a look at those details to be precise for tonight's qualifying, presented by PitLogic. PitLogic is the most comprehensive chassis in shock setup application on the market, available on Google Play and the Apple App Store. You can also check it out at competitionsuspension.com/CSI-logic-app. As mentioned, qualifying 3 laps to put in your best time. Had to be inside the top 12. Track state has been adjusted compared to the first round. 25% is the track state for the qualifying session that will carry over to the heat after this qualifying. Following along with the first of these drivers here, Chris, and you can already see some of them trying to build time up, trying to cut to the bottom and slide through the slick.
Yeah, it's just like we mentioned, Justin. We're going to see a lot of variety in the interpretations of this track here tonight.
Following along with Tyler Chalk. Again, remember, many of these drivers have recorded their quickest time on lap 1 or 2. We did see a couple be able to bust out the quickest time on their final lap to the checker flag. Tyler Chalk coming to his 3rd and final lap at the moment. He is tentatively in the 4th spot. Not able to bump up his time, though his fastest was a 16.186. Times on the left side of your screen. Fastest so far is Justin Brester with a 16.149, followed by Miller, Erickson, Chalk, and Axum. Roman Gephardt, Hunter Cram, Brennan Rogers just jumped up to the top of the pylon as you're following along with him. Hunter Cram also coming around the racetrack for his final lap time. He is at the bottom of the pylon at the moment, tentatively in P8. Can he bump up in the 16.3? No, stays in 8th position. So far, 14 drivers, Chris, have put up qualifying time.
Yeah, I think we'll be seeing those times popping in hot and heavy here very quick. Already a little bit quicker than what we were seeing in practice, it looks like.
Taking a look at Montgomery right now. He is inside the top 5 tentatively with a 16.198. Time was about a 1/10 of a second slower the final time around before taking the checkered. One driver to also keep an eye on is this man, Kobe Stidham. He was in contention for the W in round number 1. He's coming around for his final time at 16.258 on his final circuit. So he is currently around the top pylons. Austin Irvine in 3rd position meanwhile. Following along with him, as well as Chance Cram, he's inside the top 5. Crum is 16.458 last time by, coming around his last time for qualifying, using the bottom line, trying to stay along those tires. Ends up coming off hard towards the flag stand with a 16.125. That puts him up 2nd on the board. Fastest is a Rogers as the only time inside the 15-second mark. Stewart is also trying to come around for his final qualifying lap. He's in the thick of things with a 16.187. Last time, slowed down 7/10 slower. This time in the 16 flats to put himself tentatively on the outside front row before the end. Blistering lap time, the last of the drivers to record qualifying times for this qualifying session. Everybody else is preparing for tonight by warming up on the racetrack. Some blistering session times, to say the least. Your top 12, Brendan Rogers, Harry Stewart, Chance Crum, Justin Brester, Austin Irvine, Kenny Miller, Garrett Halsey, Jake Erickson, Caleb Montgomery, Tyler Chalk, Kobe Stickham, Emerson Exum is rounding out your top 12. Just outside that mark was Joey Ancona by a 1/10 of a second, Chris.
It does not get much closer than that, Justin. Very big difference between making the pole for the race and being the guy on the outside looking in.
About 30 seconds into these cars. Get ready for their heats. Again, 2 different heats to make sure these drivers can fight. It's going to be interesting once they take the racetrack. As you follow along with Rogers, your expectations once we get to racing time for these cars tonight.
This is a quick track with a lot of possible lines, Justin. This is going to be a very good race.
I think so too, especially the heats. The feature, I think, is going to be crazy as well. But the drivers are about to take to the racetrack. The heats have been organized. Let's take a look at your grid for heat race number 1 as they make their way onto the clay surface. First, real quick, pardon me, tonight's let's take a look at the order once again. Pardon me, Joey Ancona getting the first spot. He's the first driver out, followed by Christian Bruno, along with Will Sylvester in third. Jason Bryce in fourth, Roman Gephardt in fifth, with Hunter Cram in the sixth position, Hunter Brady in seventh, Bryson Smith in eighth, Brent Hobson in ninth, and Sean Malhafi rounds out the top 10, Chris. Rounding out the drivers is Bo Stencil. He'll start in the 11th position. Sam Johnson up in the admin booth for tonight's act. But once again, we'd like to remind you tonight's heat on details presented by PitLogic, comprehensive chassis and shock setup application on the market. Let's take a look at those details as we get ready for 15 laps of heat racing. The second heat has been voided. We should note for tonight, no caution flags though, as you must make it inside the top 3 positions to move on to the show.
Yeah, these heat races have been potentially some of the most exciting events on the card, with these drivers racing for just 3 spots to get them into the main event. And there's some guys that might be a little bit desperate here as things get rolling.
And we've seen some of that desperation so far for many of the drivers because, again, there's a lot of prizes on. We mentioned, of course, PitLogic, a part of the awards, I should rather say, for the 2019 Fall Series Championship. But don't forget, there's also shock package discounts on the line. First place, $500. Second place, along with an apparel pack, $250 in a shock package discount. Third place for the apparel pack and $100 in shock package discounts. And we've mentioned a couple times, those discounts can come a long way to helping build your race cars.
That's right. It's always great when you can take not only information you gather through iRacing, but also prizes you win, and really help it translate to some real-world racing.
Should note, one driver did miss the start, it appears, for this heat race. We'll get that exact driver in just a moment as they line it behind the iRacing official pace truck. Once again, they will take the green flag coming out of turn number 4 as they get ready to go for tonight. Joey Ancona is the control car. Christian Bruno starts on the outside line. The 4th place car, and Jason Bright did not make it to the racetrack. So 10 cars looking to fight for just 3 positions to make it to the feature tonight, Chris.
I feel like this is going to be a good one, Justin. A lot of guys fighting for not a lot of...
Drivers making their way through turns 2 and on their way to the backstretch right now. Ancona's been quietly one of the better drivers so far. The Swindell Speed Labs machine will bring them to the green flag. Pace truck is off into the middle of the infield as Ancona brings them on the high line of turn 3. Waiting for the green flag up on the stand. Rolling up is Bruno in his black and white Sprint. Off and away we go. Green flag is out. We're racing once again to the race at Charlotte. Ancona off to a good start on the bottom line already. Some hardy cuts from Gephardt to try and get himself towards the bubble spot.
Battle for second right now, like 2 islands in the stream. Pretty wide there, different sides of the track, but they're still digging for the...
And trouble for Gephardt. He got turned around. Bryson Smith also upside down. Hobson gets through. They are now potentially out of contention as they've fallen back. But let's head to the transfer spot battle. Christian Bruno, not a great start. He's already under attack by Hunter Cram. Cram in the blue, black, and white Jones machine trying to get into the show. Christian Bruno in the black and white 17 car looking to hold on to his show position.
And don't look now, but here comes Hunter Brady up there. Oh, they almost make contact.
Brady trying to send a hardy slide jump from the bottom side. Couldn't get to the inside, though, and hold the momentum on Cram. Meanwhile, that has allowed him a bit of a cushion. However, Cram struggling to keep up with the back end of the 17. Mohafi nearly making contact now in the fight for 4th position.
Mahaffey with a pretty strong move here. If he slides up, looks like he might be able to take the position. No, he's just going to power off the corner and put a gap.
Should note Smith off the track. He is done for the night. Also seen Stencil pull off the racetrack. He was one of the drivers that were at the back of the field for this heat race. Already, the halfway point coming up for these drivers. as they continue to fight now for the bubble spot. The leader still Ancona, Sylvester in second. Bruno just lost the bubble spot though to Malhafi after Malhafi rode the bottom side. Not able to hold on to the cushion was Bruno, as he's just gone around and lost himself, making contact all the way back to the end of the field.
Sean Mahaffey with that drive off the corner is just so impressive, Justin. Seems like he just puts the hammer down off of the turn and he just drives away from whoever he's near. He's really making that inside line.
Coming now to 7 laps to go. That time by at the stripe for these drivers. Top 3, Ancona, Sylvester, and Malhafi. With some of the attrition though, Malhafi and his pink, black, and white machine has been able to pull away by a decent margin. They're also going to have the drivers behind them have to deal with lap traffic. Gephardt does get on the racetrack as we continue to fight on this circuit. P5 continuing to heat up though. Christian Bruno having to get around that lap car I mentioned in Gephardt.
Oh, and the lap car makes contact almost with Hunter Crum in the 20.
It looks like his race is also done potentially for this feature. One of the main things that was included part of the update, tweaks to the incident system in terms of hosted races. Looks like he is off the track, in fact done for the night, parked by race control. He was multiple laps down. Still following along with these drivers with 3 laps to go in the action as you continue to look at the sliding in that battle for 5th. Let's take a look back towards the race leader though, because Ancona from the drop of the green flag has looked very comfortable in that 88 machine. 2 to go this time by for the Swindell Speed Labs machine. He hasn't made a single mistake yet, Chris.
Yeah, definitely not a wheel turn the wrong way at all. Just a very impressive drive.
Remember, he was the last car out from qualifying. He just got the white flag. Sylvester in second. 3rd spot is Malhafi. 4th is Brady. Bruno in 5th. Cram is in 6th. But Ancona will come out of the final corner, rides the bottom, and takes the checker flag to win the heat race for the CSI Shocks Fall Series 15 and over class at the dirt track at Charlotte. Sylvester 2nd, Malhafi in 3rd, Brady in 4th, Bruno in 5th, Cram, Hobson, Gephardt, Stetzel, and Smith round out the top 10 for these drivers. Should note one thing, because of the second heat race being cut, this has just been confirmed by race control that those final 3 positions read off inside the top 6, and Brady, Bruno, and Crum will make it, as it is an 18-lap feature in this series. So they are in based on the fact that there wasn't a second heat race tonight. But it's still going to be an uphill battle because they're going to be right in the midst of a hornet's nest.
Yeah, and as we've seen, these races don't always favor drivers that are starting deeper in the field because it is 40 laps in distance on a quarter-mile track. Those laps click off very quick.
And already some drivers putting up some quick practice laps before they begin. Remember, the track state does carry over to the feature race here. But already some good drivers being deep in the field. Even with the invert, Axon back in 12th position. Miller, he led many laps in round number 2 in the feature race. He'll be the man in control of the field now because of the invert. If you're a driver such as, say, a Kenny Miller or anyone who is up at the front and end up losing that track position on mistakes, what do you do to bounce back tonight?
Well, tonight you just got to make it count. You can't leave anything on the table, and you got to give it your all. Whatever other cliche you like to throw out there. Also, I do want to mention, Justin, even though you're from Canada and they use a whole different measurement system than us here in the United States, I managed to screw up 0.4 miles is 4/10 of a mile, not a quarter mile. So my apologies for mixing that one up pretty much the entire show. So
again, apologies from us there. It's a 4/10 of a mile circuit here at this facility. Either way, it's an exciting facility, to say the very least. Taking a look at Miller, to be precise. He's again one of the drivers looking to bounce back after leading a majority of the laps in round 2, then getting involved with incidents and going to the back in the end of that one. Drivers such as Chance Crum, though, looking for a chance to get to victory lane. He'll start outside row 2.
Row, row number 3 is going to see Harry Stewart and Brennan Rogers, as well as Garrett Hulsey and Jake Erickson in the next 2.
Again, we'll look at the full grid once these drivers finish their warm-ups here. But there's still a lot to discuss there, to say the very least at this point. What do you do if you're in the middle of the pack? We've seen guys like Axum, for example, now up on your screen. What do you do since you're starting right in the middle of a hornet's nest of drivers where a lot of caution flags have come from, to be quite frank, so far?
Well, that's definitely not the fun place to be. So I think it's going to be a lot of minding your P's and Q's and keeping your head on a swivel.
Indeed, you're looking at him right now. Remember, he is going to be towards the back end. In the practice, though, remember, he was one of the slower drivers that is looking to get things together for the feature race. Your favorites heading into tonight's feature, by the way?
Well, there's a lot of top talent in this one. Austin Irvine, who was top of the charts in practice, he's starting outside of row number 1. That's going to be a huge threat, I feel like. And whoa, excuse me, going blank there for a second. Caleb Montgomery, I think, is a driver that might be a little bit underrated as well. He was maybe not the quickest in practice, but he did make the cut in qualifying and turned in a pretty good lap. So I think he's somebody that could, if we're going to have somebody coming from deeper in the field in that hornet's nest we talked about, I really think he's a driver that we should keep our eyes on.
I think you have to keep an eye maybe on Tyler Chalk as well. It was talked about how much Tyler Chalk, one of the drivers to keep an eye on. He's in 10th position. I also think you have to keep an eye on that 99 machine of Will Sylvester, who's getting a breather on this racetrack. He is currently in the infield at the moment, preparing for tonight's action. He was in the top 5 in the practice charts, and that blue and black machine might potentially, if he can get some luck, get himself inside the top 5. We'll have to wait and see, as we're just moments away from the green flag here. Your quick final thoughts before we get to the grid.
Well, number 1, track measurements are fun if you're not paying attention. And this track is a really fun track with a variety of lines and different interpretations these drivers can take around here. The heat race was filled with action, and I think the A-main is going to be even better.
All the drivers just about set to go, as here's the track details once again. Chance to redeem yourself, Chris, as our producer liked to.
Yes, that is a 4/10 mile, or if you're really good at fractions, a 2/5 mile, 0.40 miles in distance here in Concord, North Carolina. It is an oval track, which means it's round, 4 turns. And the surface is mostly dirt and clay.
Mostly dirt and clay indeed. These drivers, though, ready to attack that dirt and clay. Let's take a look at your starting grid for tonight's feature. Again, 18 drivers making the show, 6 from the heat. At the front, though, it'll be Kenny Miller alongside Austin Irvine in row number 1. Row 2 sees Justin Brester moved up to P3. Inside row number 2 alongside Chance Crum. Harry Stewart, one of the favorites so far this season, starts in P5. The Aussie dirt racer starts alongside Brennan Rogers. Gary Hulsey in 7th, Jake Erickson in 8th. Rounded at the top 10, Caleb Montgomery and Tyler Chalk.
Just outside of the top 10 is going to be Kobe Stidham, followed by Emerson Axum in 12th. Lucky number 13th on the grid is going to be Joey Ancona, followed by Will Sylvester. We have Sean Mahaffey, Hunter Brady, Christian Bruno, and I believe a non-starter is going to be Hunter Crum in the 20.
Fortunately, Hunter Crum having a miscommunication with the heat race, not able to make the final transfer spot. But let's take a quick look at your CSI race details. 40 laps the distance. After the inversion, the state does carry over. There are yellow flags and fixed setups for these drivers. 17 of them all set to go to take the green flag as they come through turns 1 and 2. They'll get that green piece of cloth when they come out of turn number 4. It should be an exciting one tonight from the dirt track at Charlotte, the midway point of the championship. Who will take control of it is the question. Miller starts on the inside in his yellow, black, and white Dirt Midget. Austin Irvine on the outside in the black, orange, and blue machine. Green flags waving up at the stand. We're underway for the dirt track at Charlotte. And already Kenny Miller off to a good start, but they're 3-4 wide in the back of the pack.
Austin Irvine with a great move going from the top all the way to the bottom. Looks like he's going to possibly take the lead off the corner. He's going to give it another go there. Two very different interpretations, now three different thoughts on how to drive this track as Austin Irvine takes the lead.
The bottom was the way many of the drivers passed in the heat race, we should note. He is now pulled in our car length as Miller still tries to learn along the cushion. The rest of the leaders doing so as well. Rogers trying to follow the tire tracks of Chance Crum. As we take a look on board from his blue and white Dirt Midget, you can see the different lines being used by that top two. Miller preferring the middle to bottom now. Irvine trying to ride the cushion and diamond it off in turns 1 and 2.
Now, Justin, if you're starting towards the back of the field and you have to work your way up through, and you're seeing, caution.
Caution! Stidham getting involved with Hunter Brady at the back of the field for the first yellow flag of the night. That was after a massive slide from behind, but I think it really started more so Brady with contact with Ancona. Brady was trying to fight side by side. Ancona cut down, spins out Brady, and nowhere for Stidham to go for the first yellow.
Well, definitely an unfortunate turn of events there with our first caution coming pretty early into the event. And nowhere to go as the cars just get collected there down the straightaway.
Already the drivers behind the official iRacing pace truck. Leader is Irvine, Miller is in second, Crum in third, Rogers in fourth. Harry Stewart rounds out the top 5. And now the field's bunched up once more. It's going to get pretty interesting as they'll get ready for a double file restart in just a couple moments.
So they are talking on the radio about possibly switching to single file restarts towards the halfway point of the event. It's something we saw him do during the last race, Justin. How do you think that's going to change the way these drivers handle these restarts?
Well, if you think about a lot of dirt racing, they actually do that in many series. If, say, there's caution precautions to try and keep things calm because double file, you have the chance for slide jobs. It's a bit harder to pass off a start if you're single file. The drivers, though, are lined up side by side. The official iRacing pace truck is off as they head off into turn 4 onto the front stretch. The green flag's back out. Irvine in control of the field, and cars are already flipping. The caution is out for a second time. Already a second yellow. Jake Erickson being spun around on top of his lid. He was inside the top 10 when he got squeezed into the outside wall. Wow.
Yeah, you can see that. Just somebody tried to run him out of racetrack there, and I imagine it probably wasn't intentional, but definitely not a very heads-up move there.
And I had to double check who that car was on the inside line. It was actually Harry Stewart that squeezed him up there. It looked like Stewart just pushed a bit to the right, and at the end squeezes a car by accident into the wall there, quickly under the yellow flag on the circuit. For Erickson, the bad thing is he went from 15th to 6th before that restart. Now he's into the infield.
Yeah, that's definitely a tough break for him. He was definitely moving on that restart and unfortunately moved the wrong way.
Drivers lined up for the restarts once again. At least the double at the lead pack and the 2-to-go signal here. But Irvine and Miller are still your top 2. Crum is in third. Rogers and Stewart still round out your top 5. At this point, your thoughts on if you were, say, Miller to try and fight back against Irvine, who quickly took that lead at the end of the first lap.
Now, I think it would be cool if iRacing could interject some of those Delaware double file restarts like we see on some of the dirt.
Oh, that's actually a good point. You're talking about the a majority of the field starting single file, then basically the top positions going double. That's something for another time. These drivers looking to find loud pedal time. Green flag is out. They hit those loud pedals. Irvine brings them back into turn 1 as he slides to the bottom side. Miller prefers the cushion. Crum follows suit on the bottom side. Rogers, though, fighting on the high side for P3. Rogers not able to carry the momentum off the corner, though, on the cushion. Crum just a little bit faster, as we've seen so far. That middle to bottom line seems to be the preferred early on. Rogers, though, this time able to build enough momentum to move to third as they continue to make moves up high behind him. Montgomery follows through for fourth.
And Austin Irvine, in the meantime, has been very impressive up front. Took over the lead with a pretty strong pass in the early running, has been able to hold that spot with the help of some cautions. But the field is going crazy.
Question is, will it stay green is the question. Behind Irvine, Rogers with a massive slide job. Can't hold on to second. Miller has to go for the crossover as they're really fighting for as many points as they can. Remember, second place counts to about 67 points. One car is upside down for the caution. It's Chance Crum. Hit by a couple others down the front stretch as we're back on our yell for the third time, coming to 25 laps to go. Crum that time squeezed up in the wall by a slide job attempt, and it ends up bringing out the yellow flag. The slide job that time for Emerson Exum, who is coming from the back of the field before the yellow.
It's a tough break for Chance Crum. He's had a very up and down race, both literally and figuratively at this point. Started fourth, faded back a little bit, and unfortunately caught himself in an incident here that's going to leave some dust and some dirt in some places that you don't want it to be.
Yeah, that is the second driver flipped upside down. Ericsson already done. And we have just received official confirmation. The next caution flag for these drivers on the track will signify a single file restart. This will be the last double file restart of the night. Coming to 22 laps to go next time by 2 to go on the pace truck. Your thoughts right now is the top two have stayed the same top two so far with the Hornet's Nest behind them.
Well, at this point, I feel like that iRacing safety truck is going to get the lap leader bonus here shortly.
But one of the main movers, though, through all of this, though, is Montgomery. We were talking about him just a moment ago when he was moving up. He's gone up 5 positions from the drop of the green flag. He'll be starting in P number 4 along that outside cushion on this race.
Yeah, and Emerson Axum, who started pretty deep in the field as well, started 12th. He's already up to 5th. A lot of drivers moving up through the field. I think that plays a credit to the surface here at Charlotte and how wide.
Official iRacing pace truck is off. Once again, the drivers being indicated stay side by side up to the flag stand. Irvine will lead them to that stand. Green flag is back out. A great launch for Irvine as they head back into turn 1. Irvine already up to the cushion. Rogers trying to ride the bottom of the track, nearly clipping the berm as he tries to fight for second. Side by side for the spot with Miller. Can he carry the momentum as he tries to get side by side with Irvine? No. Miller drives by for second as the fight continues.
It's a 3-car battle for that runner-up position right now, as we have cars sliding all over the track. A little bit of contact.
And that was Rogers coming up in front of Montgomery. Montgomery goes up to the cushion. Drivers switching lines, including Axum. It's now a 4-car fight for position as they spin behind him. Caution flag is out. Multiple spins. Harry Stewart amongst them. Already your 4th caution of the night for the feature of the dirt track in Charlotte. And this all started off with the second incident. Stewart's been involved in the night this time. A car and Garrett Halsey sliding up underneath them leads to a bunch of drivers getting bottled up heading into turn 1. Go back a slight touch more on this GSRC replay and you'll see Halsey, that black car, come up from the bottom, make contact with the left wheels here quick.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but a little bit of that is kind of a product of the way the racing happens on the dirt. These drivers will, they're running all over the track trying to find the quickest way around, and sometimes they're not always clear when they make the move.
And many drivers just barely miss getting involved in that. We've seen Tyler Choxiel in Blue Machine get by. Hunter Brady was the car who hit Stewart right on the driver's side, the left side rather, of his Dirt Midget. So he's slowed down a little bit in 10th position. He's still on the track, however. But to remind you once again, we're now to single file restarts, meaning a lot of these machines will be along that outside cushion. And we have seen that cushion work itself now during this feature compared to where we didn't really see it be the best line at all in the heat race.
Yeah, you're right. It has definitely shifted quite a bit as we got to feature time.
Irvine will set the pace for the drivers again, though, in that 51 machine. He's the leader, followed by Miller. Third spot is Axum. Fourth spot is Brendan Rogers. Rounding up the top 5 is Montgomery. Sylvester's in 6th. Mulhaffey, Chalk, Brester, and Hunter Brady round out the top 10. 14 cars still running. As we come to 15 laps to go, green flag is up. We're back to racing here at the dirt track at Charlotte.
Well, the single file restarts, Justin, seem to have things a touch calmer, but that's not really saying too much as they've already begun to race back.
Already Rogers finding his way to the berm of the racetrack, losing momentum as he clipped the grass. Of course, you gotta note there's those giant white tires you risk if you run that berm. Rogers up to the cushion. Axum made a bit of contact with Miller. More contact pushes Rogers back a couple spots.
Yeah, we're at the point in the event now, Justin, where it's no holds barred, nobody's giving an inch, and everybody's trying to take a mile.
That time Rogers was right against the walls, but now, because of the fight for second, Irvine's pulled away. It's turned to a fight for third. Montgomery pushing hard from the bottom of the track, can't get the slide job on Axum. Pulls him up just a touch though on the corner exit as Montgomery goes for the slide once more for the slick stuff. Cuts off the path of Axum. Axum goes back for the switch. Rogers can't fall through.
In the meantime, this fight's allowed Kenny Miller some breathing room in the runner-up position right now. A somewhat decent gap considering how things have been. But right now the star of the show is Austin Irvine up front, still leading the way.
Irvine's essentially led every single lap as you still follow along with the battle for third. Axum moves up to the cushion. Rogers just a line below. Montgomery trying to diamond things. But it's about to turn into a 6-horse battle for P3 as Montgomery slides back up the track. Axum slides down low, and the caution flag is out again with 9 laps to go coming to the stripe. Another crash. This is at the back of the field, it appears, for these drivers. And this is going to trim down the amount of drivers even more so. Involved in this one is Justin Brester, it appeared. Let's take a look at this as Justin Brester went sideways and was about to point out some of the aggression in this grouping of drivers. Tyler Chalk was charging hard, trying to go for slide jobs. That time he over-rotated, nowhere for Brester.
Yeah, that was a not fun-looking incident there, Justin. Looks like the 9 car has left the track, headed...
There is a fast repair available. However, Brester, it appears, did lose his front hood cover, or nose cover, I should rather say. That's why he took the fast repair, gets the car fixed, is back on the racetrack, just beating time. Here's he will stay in contention. Yes, indeed, will stay on the lead lap, but everyone's still lined up behind this iRacing official pace truck. But we're at the point where we're getting towards the end of this race already here, Chris. The level of urgency may be high, especially with Irvine being in control of this field this entire night so far.
That could very well be the case, Justin. And when you look at the field, a lot of incidences tonight and a lot of cautions, but we only have 3 drivers that are really out of the race. And the way we've seen people going back and forth up through the field, that does definitely not mean there's a shortage of drivers that could still play a role.
Drivers being reminded, please keep it clean to the end of this race. We're coming to 6 laps to go. Irvine in control of the field. Banks it down turn 4. Back on the loud pedal everyone goes as he gets a massive jump on the rest of the group. Huge dive from the inside of the slide. Miller can't get to the inside, however, of the leader. Loses 4 car lengths down the backstretch. Here comes Montgomery, however. He slide jobs his way back for the spot. Crossover gives Miller back second as they continue to fight hard for the runner-up position.
Montgomery with the slide job takes the lead, but now it's going to be traded right back with Miller as Miller slides across the track. And look at that, Justin. They're trying to trade it again. Ooh, a little bit of contact going into the corner. Montgomery once again to the bottom, slides up towards the wall, and then we have the crossover again. Coming to 3 laps to go for these drivers. Again, this is the battle for second position.
Miller now gets some space. Montgomery again gets the momentum off of turn 4. Closes up the gap. Keep an eye on Rogers. He's found his way back up inside the top grouping as he, along with Exum, now look to turn this fight on. Caution flag is out. Austin Irvine will get 2 laps to go behind the official iRacing pace truck. And looking for the exact position of the caution flag here, it appears it might have been in the mix of the pack, as this might end the race. Garrett Halsey may have been involved. We'll have to double check. Let's take a look at the GSRC replay. Indeed it was Halsey that was involved. Keep an eye on this replay as he was trying to slide from the middle up to the top. And there's the pace truck. So, looking for the... We're taking a quick look at this one once more, as this is going to end the race. That contact there, even though he disappeared off the track, he did appear to may have gone sideways and triggered the caution. And in the end, Austin Irvine, coming to the white flag and the checkered, will be the one who led just about every single lap tonight and take round number 3 of the CSI Shocks Fall Series 15 and over class. Austin Irvine wins at the dirt track at Charlotte. Second place goes to Kenny Miller. Third spot goes to Caleb Montgomery. Exum and Rogers round out the top 5 in what was an entertaining race for the most part. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have your post-race coverage. You're watching the Global Sim Racing channel, live from the virtual dirt track at Charlotte in Concord, North Carolina. Welcome back, everyone, to tonight's coverage of the CSI Fall Series 15 and over class, as we are at the dirt track at Charlotte after an interesting feature race once more at round number 3 on the Global Sim Racing channel. The man who came out on top and led just about every single lap was Austin Irvine, the USAC West Coast Sprint driver. He takes home the checker flag over Kenny Miller under caution the second round to do so this season. Caleb Montgomery finished in third along with Emerson Exum in the fourth position. Brendan Rogers in the top 5. He started in 6th. While Haffrey, one of the biggest movers tonight, went from 15th to 6th at the checker flag, with Will Sylvester finishing 7th. Christian Bruno went from 17th to 8th to go inside the top 10. He is one of the drivers who has been inside the top 10 multiple times this season. Garrett Halsey finished in 9th, and Harry Stewart, having a rough day here, Chris, rounds out the top 10.
Kobe Stidham just outside of the top 10 and 11th, followed by Tyler Chalk. Justin Brewster finished lucky 13th after starting inside of row number 2. Hunter Brady was our last finisher on the track, then Joey Ancona, Chance Crum, and Jake Erickson all leaving the event early, and then Hunter Crum unable to make the start.
That's a look at your unofficial race results for tonight's action for round number 3. And Chris, I want to get your thoughts on how tonight's racing went. It was a strong run by Irvine, up at the front, from green flag to the checker flag. Your thoughts over on how tonight's feature race went?
I gotta say the cautions were a little bit of a letdown. The racing was great when they were able to race, but the cautions being mixed in there really slowed the pace down. But we had that last little green flag spurt towards the end where Kenny Miller and Caleb Montgomery really set off the show and really kind of defined what the series has been about in these first 3 races so far, where there's a lot of great back and forth give and take racing. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see as much of it as we would like tonight, but I definitely got to give a huge call out to Austin Irvine also, who did a great job managing the field, managing the pace, and was able to bring home the win.
And with the rough race for Harry Stewart, who came in with the first and the third, there's the chance that this might be a potential drop if he can get the same performance from the first 2 rounds. Does that feel with more, actually cause more pressure, rather, as for you as a driver to basically say, okay, to make sure I get the most amount of points and try and come away with the top prize, I can't afford to basically have a run outside the top 10 at all. No mistakes.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest drawbacks to having a mulligan as a driver, at least, is the fact that it's nice to know that you have it, but once you've used it, it really kind of doubles down on the pressure. Because before, you maybe were a little more relaxed, you had some wiggle room, maybe if something went wrong, you could try to ride through it, but it wouldn't be the end of the world. But now that's out the window. So now you have a benchmark for what your worst night is, and you can't go worse than that, or else, that now factors into your championship. So I definitely think it's going to put some pressure on Harry Stewart here the remainder of this season, as he now has thrown his giveaway out the window, and now it's the pressure's on.
We'll have to see how he and many of the other drivers continue on with their championship hopes in round number 4 next week. But we'd like to thank you for tuning in for tonight's action live tonight from the dirt track at Charlotte. We also like to thank Garrett Andrews for organizing what has been a very competitive fall series here with Competition Suspension Inc. as well as PitLogic. We also like to thank the companies that provide our software and hardware for our broadcast listed up on your screen now. With additional thanks to Jude Lawn, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get more of her great work. Thanks to the team once again today of Sean Ambrose and Chris Bobby. And if you'd like to find out more about the Global Sim Racing channel, including its upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. If you'd like to help support the channel, you can check out our merchandise for sale as well at gsrc.storenvy.com. You can also check out their social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, one word, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. Don't forget to head over to our YouTube page as well and hit that big red subscribe button, as well as the notification bell, so you don't miss a moment here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. The next race of the season for this 15 over class will be at Kokomo Speedway. That'll be on December the 10th, and what should be an interesting event. Don't forget, we also have many upcoming races for other series listed on your screen now, including the 14 and over class. which takes the track here at the Dirt Track at Charlotte tomorrow night. Be sure to keep an eye on that and check those out. Mark them down in your calendar. It should be a fun stretch of races. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.